I saw that.
Namaste, welcome. Welcome you all.
Hey.
This is our Brighton Satsang, a series of programs, even though we're not with you physically.
Darn.
But we can see some of you. Look at there's Shiva
And Rishi.
Yes.
Hi, Rishi.
Me. And we can see Nikolai, and we can see Jane.
Hi, Nikki, and hi, Jane.
All right.
It's great to see you.
All right,
guys.
good to see you all. Namaste.
And Prem, and Claudine, and Patricia.
My God. And think how
And Ashish. Okay, who else?
how much less work it's been to show up.
Sarah, and Helen. And Brian. Okay, we can't see everybody on the screen. The screens shift. So, but Shiva, I'm really glad you've joined us. And it was great to see Rishi. Thank you for bringing him on. What? Oh, he's got a picture. Can you show us, put Shiva up? We're going to put you up with Rishi, Shiva. And you can unmute yourself. Oh my God.
Hello, Rishi.
Who has to unmute? You guys?
Yeah, hello, Rishi. Shree says from across the oceans.
Is he going to show us a picture?
Yeah. Your fingers look a mess. What are you doing? Feeding him?
I'm giving him his dinner. So.
It's daddy time. Hi, Rishi. Oh my God, he's so cute. Oh, I see you have a new kitchen in the living room.
Yeah, and got a baby's kitchen there. Laura's here as well.
Well, it's great to see you. Is that Laura?
Laura.
Oh, Laura, come in a little bit more. Huh?
Hey.
Oh my God. I really miss you guys.
Okay, so good to see you. It's wonderful to be linked across continents. And, you know, it's pointing to the conversation we're going to have today. Oh my God. And the nature of the predicament we find ourselves in. I had a major injury on Sunday. And yesterday, the pain went away. And it was like, wow, what happened to the pain? There was 2 days of pain. And today I'm walking. And it was a pretty major injury. And it's like, well, what's going on? But what is going on is I'm in the Asat. And I am meeting structures of the subterranean forces that are at work in the collective consciousness. And it is really a process of being able to hold what is coming, what is arising, what has been released, and the relationship between these forces and what we see in the world in our lives today. So when I came out, I noticed I was having some difficulty breathing and I was coughing, a dry cough. I didn't know what it was until I looked outside and you couldn't see the mountains on the other side of the valley because of the smoke from the fires that are happening one after another. They had 10,000 lightning strikes
In California.
in California in 72 hours, and the winds are blowing them to where we are. So air quality is 187 here, so it's pretty poor. So I woke up to the peril. I woke up to the uncertainty if I could walk or I could even show up for this program. Because that's pretty much what's been going on. Although yesterday I was able to show up and I felt much better for doing so. So, but that's just the beginning. If you look at this conversation of peril and purpose, it's really good to wake up to where we are as a species, but also where we are here in the United States, which has for a long time been the highest light for the world since World War II. The sacrifices that this country made and its own struggling effort to live up to the ideal of its constitution. And clearly failing many, many times, but it's clearly a work that is always having to be recreated. It is a labor aligned with a higher possibility in the Constitution of the United States. For me, really, though, I took it for granted for much of my life, but when this whole theme of peril and purpose started coming to me, I realized what a sacred document it was, what an act, a leap it was back then when they 1770s, where they were able to bring 13 rowdy colonies who had just rebelled against their version of Trump, King George, and had somehow gathered together with a common purpose called self-government. No longer were we going to be determined by the hereditary line of kings and queens, but by who we elected. And it was an extraordinary principle. Of course, it came out of France, and it was an unfolding for time. But it was an inspiration, and it's been something that has allowed a few good beings, souls, men, to step forward in a way that made them shining beacons for all of humanity. And it was so interesting because last night I was recovered enough to catch up on things, and I was watching segments of the Democratic Convention, and Barack Obama spoke. Now, Barack Obama has not spoken in 4 years about the current issues around Trump and the what Trump is up to, but he spoke this Tuesday night, I believe it was. And I got to tell you, he was standing on a stage. This is a Democratic convention. No balloons, no bands, no yelling and screaming and flag waving, just standing alone with behind the backdrop of the Constitution. And he said, our democracy is in danger. So in this country, he spoke strikingly eloquent. For me, it was like, it was painful. It was painful to receive how far this country has fallen in just 4 years. It was painful to recognize the power and the corruption of the forces that are at work, that are rising in the collective consciousness at the very one beacon of light that has helped preserve the opportunity of mankind up until this point. And as I listened to his wife, Michelle, the passion and the heart and the moral authority she carried, it was just almost too much to bear on the price. And I was so glad to feel that. I was so glad to be in present with that which, just due to the circumstances of this work and what we do, that it wasn't as present, so embodied. And in that moment of my life, I had been stopped by this injury and I was able to get it. Now, I don't know if this was fated when we made this schedule up some months ago. I guess I always know that before these programs, I have to meet the issue of the program. So I really met it. And then to wake up to the raging tornadoes, fire tornadoes. I saw a video of fire tornadoes in California raging across the major freeway between California and Nevada. It was just like, apocalypse. And we don't have to look far because, can't go out unless I have my mask, can't have more than a few people without my mask. I have to be out of doors. Our whole life has been shaped by a pandemic that we've grown used to Donald Trump and his counterparts in other parts of the world. We've grown used to it. We've adapted. But in that adapting, we go to sleep. We lose the capacity of our ability to meet the peril. It's like too much. It's like you get enough bombardment with corruption and lies and deceit. I mean, Trump has what, 4,000, 40,000 lies going on all the time. It's just like you just you can't take it anymore, right? We just closed down. And that's just what the dark forces want. That's just what these unexpressed forces that are here to thwart the opportunity of the evolutionary unfolding of mankind. So in that moment and from the whole night, I was in, you could call it a dejection, but it's not a dejection for me, but it was a recognition of the condition that we're in. And I realized that what we're seeing is the collapse of an order of civilization that is being foundationally undermined in insidious ways for my whole generation. I was born right after World War II, 1948. And there was a surge of possibility in America. And we didn't have this kind of privilege. We didn't have this kind of extraordinary life quality, opportunity, just what we're doing now. Back then, nothing like that at all. You're lucky if you had a TV or a decent radio. So I've seen this rise, and I'm now acutely experiencing the fall. I saw it in my son with his violent war games that he loved to play, his videos. I now understand that video war games almost exceed movie watching, the number of people who are participating. It's all violence, it's all destruction. What is this? It's opening passageways for the part of the human nature that needed to be tamed sufficiently so that this world order was possible. And the structures and the rules of this new world order carried a paradoxical quality, a contradictory forces. One, the order came out of the principle of facts and objective facts and agreement. And in those objective facts and agreement, mankind was being able to create a new meaning for itself, a new organizing principle than tribe and country and self-interest and all the rest of it. It was bringing mankind to a place beyond religion, beyond the ancestral traditions, allowing for a new possibility to come into existence. And that is why we have the world order we have now. But I assure you, it's fragile. And it's fragile in a number of reasons, because it wasn't mature enough to include the parts of nature, these subliminal forces, and conquer them bit by bit. It leaped ahead. And therefore, we are now at a precipice. We are at a critical moment. We are at a transitional point as a species, where mankind has built this new creation, not including nature enough to recognize the consequences of what it would mean to actually succeed in accomplishing what it was striving to accomplish. The idea of freedom for all. What has it become? A chaotic free-for-all. What has it become? A house of Babel, where truth is lost in the morass of lies and distortions and approximations. And we've grown used to this. It's like frogs in a pan of cold water with the heat slowly being churned up, and we are being cooked. But the pandemic is just one symptom. But it is setting in motion a cascading effects that have to do with the unmet aspects, the unintegrated aspects of this shared creation mankind is moving towards. And it is going to teach us the lessons if we wish to be able to create a new stable possibility for this order to come forward. So I know that's the case. That's with all things. You can't leave the mother behind.
Mhm.
You got to take into the fact that she actually has been charged of everything. And by the way, including your body, just like me thinking I can step over the formwork and the rebars for the foundation. She showed me, nope, You need me. And I woke up to my body. So, this whole principle of getting real and waking up and coming out of these habitual patterns that keep us in this cloud of separation from the reality of what we're living in is actually the purpose of awakening. That's why we woke up. That's why we're here having this conversation. It is no longer sufficient to go along with the flow of the current and be the observer, to be the unwitting consenter through our non-action. It is no longer sufficient to be riding along in this current, because we too will be swept off and we will lose the opportunity that our awakening provides for humanity, not just for ourselves. All of the world's awakenings are to meet this peril, because any human being that awakens and stays aligned and brings awakening into their life lifts millions in their possibility to wake up out of their own more deeply embedded delusion. The more people will become aware of the consequences of staying asleep, such that they too will wake up in whatever version of that they're capable of. When I saw Barack Obama on the stage speaking, he's a human being. Matter of fact, I listened to a number of the Democratic people that came up forward in this soliloquy before the whole world on a stage with just them, speaking their experience, speaking their vision, speaking what they see needs to be done. And I was in touch with the fact that this whole thing in our country between Democrats and Republicans is very similar to what happened in the time of Krishna, 35,000 years BC. Because remember, the Pandavas and the Kauravas were cousins. They were under one king. Many of the Kauravas, those who were on the side of the darkness, perpetuating the darkness, were the teachers, the friends, the family members of the Pandavas. So what had happened in the time of the Bhagavad Gita, there had become a distinction between the forces of light and dark. And it's clear, as I listened to every one of the Democratic people speaking, I was thinking, well, you know, prior to watching this, I was saying, well, there's good people in the Republican Party, but there's been a clear organization of the forces of light and dark moving, the dark moving towards the Kauravas, moving towards the Republican Party, and the light forces, the truth forces, moving towards the Democratic Party, because every one of them who was speaking truth, as accessible as it is for committed human beings who are seeking a role to lead the country back out of its current collapse. And it's very likely continuing collapse. So we are in a battlefield. Now, what does the battle require? Well, it requires Arjunas, and it requires Krishnas. It's the only way this can be done, because Arjuna alone could not do it. And Krishna does not have the capacity to manifest at the level that Arjuna can. It has to be the human in us, aligning with the divine in us, in order to be able to be present and meet, to wake up and get real, to come to responsibility, to the role that you are playing unwittingly and wittingly, either to perpetuate the ignorance or to break it up. And then to act, to change the actions we take so that our outer life is aligned with our inner awakening. And thereby we become part of the awakening process for humanity. And what are we talking to? We're talking to just ignorance. We're talking to waking up out of sleep. A happy sleep, but a sleep that's cascading to consequences that are much greater than the pandemics and the smoke that's smothering the air here, or my own personal injury, or the clearly coming economic collapse. We have an economy that it doesn't know what's what. It is clearly just before the heart attack. It is clearly an unstable condition. And the governments are doing what they can to keep the heart beeping. That, yeah, they're in critical care, but it doesn't look good. And we have climate change, where the evidence is showing that scientists didn't get it right. It's actually much worse. It may very well be too late. I mean, not just most of all the writers I've read over the last few years, some of whom have been involved with this for 30 years, are saying, hey, it's going to happen. Where cascading effects are now being found, that the permafrost is going to release very likely within the next decade or 5 decades, by 2100, amount of carbon dioxide that exceeds all the carbon dioxide mankind has produced in its entire 300 years since the industrial revolution. Okay, I mean, sure, they could be wrong, but the principle is they could be right. And what do you do when you know catastrophe is coming? You say, well, maybe it'll work out. Or do you take actions? Now, for us, for those of us who've awakened spiritually, most of our actions taking have to be with us recognizing the purpose of our awakening and the peril of staying asleep. Our own little representation of the collective issue that we carry is our own unwillingness to change. What do you think the Republicans are about? They want to hang on to their power, their money, their greed, their sex, whatever it is that's organizing themselves in order that they can not be found out. Because we do have a system not based on what you can hide. We have a system based on what we can find out. Now, it's under attack. It's being threatened from every side in this country and in other countries where dictators are ruling them. So it's not easy to find out where you're asleep, to find out where you don't want to know, where it's too upsetting. So I'm sorry that this message is coming to all of you in UK, but this is probably the most important aspect to recognize. This is the foundation of the Bhagavad Gita, to prepare for the great battle. And it's individual, it's within each of us, and then in all of us. That together we can begin to create a collective momentum that will have this kind of awakening. Because watch what's going to happen even in the politics of the United States. Next week, you're going to see the Republicans come forward with their case, with their justification and rationalization, and their explanation for all the anger and the fear and the ignorance that's in the world. So you'll see a high contrast between the light and the dark. Now, what is this? In this country, it's like the conventions are the blowing of the conches. It's the declaration of the distinction that has happened because the peril is right at that point of the precipice. And everything is at stake. Everything at this plane is at stake. Now, in one sense, it's extraordinary because the power comes when we wake up. And it's the power of being able to perceive the truth. And what is mostly the role of truth? To see the untruth. When we see the untruth, we recover the power locked into it. And we become powerful. And with that power, we access a power greater than our own. The power of the principle that Krishna points to, this supreme power that's so now here to awaken mankind to the peril that it's coming to. Now, this is the domain of karma. Karma is basically consequences. It's basically actions that create consequences that cause other actions. Cause and effect. You initiate action, and then you become the effect of that action. And this is how consciousness learns. Which actions are aligned with the evolutionary purpose and which actions are not. But if you're not awake, you don't know that's going on. You're swimming in the ocean of samsara, the ocean of error, not knowing which way's up. So there are consequences coming, inevitably. The environmental impact on mankind in my last 30 years of my life has been the 85% of the measurable damage that's occurring to the atmosphere, to the planet now. The last 30 years. What was I, 40? I had no clue. I did have a hint. Remember my father in chemistry class when I was 16, speaking of global warming and how Earth could become like Venus. And I've heard of this in my more recent life before my awakening. As the issues, as an architect, I was trained to there was no gasoline when I was going to school. That's when the Saudi Arabians cut off the oil supply of the United States. And we had lines that would go blocks long to get a few gallons of gas, where people who would bring cans and fill up their car and their tank were being attacked by people in the line. So there'd be enough gas. And when I went to school, it was all sustainable design. It was passive solar. It was, how do you live in a world without gasoline? I spent 4 years going through that process, but when I went out into the world, the supply of gas was reopened and everybody forgot about it. Although for a period of time, there was some very active efforts to make buildings more energy efficient and had more requirements that were imposed. But as soon as Reagan came in, got in the way of making money. So I've seen this in the course of my lifetime. I didn't know what it meant. I do know that when I became involved in allowing net metering in the state of Nevada, the year or two before my awakening, I found a cause, a purpose within me as a human being, where I started spending quite a bit of time meeting people in our state assembly to speak to them of the issue. Became a part owner of a solar alternative energy business. I became linked up to activities that are going on nationwide with the Union of Concerned Scientists. And I began to meet people who I saw in my own experience at that time, which was they were awake people who were beginning to speak about climate change, not just energy sufficiency. So all of this was going on without me recognizing what was happening, and very soon after that, I awakened. And what happened out of that awakening, just the same time of the awakening, I was offered a national position as a head of a organization, Enron, which was looking to promote alternative energies nationwide. They were quite well known. And I was asked to be the new director. And for a period of time, there was this question, I've got this awakening. Do I follow the awakening, or do I play this role that clearly there's a need for? And then something in me chose the awakening. Later, I found out that this organization associated with Enron was all a scam. It was all a cover-up for a company that was making money over selling energy far in excess of what it was worth. So there was like the tobacco companies creating these false good guy fronts. So clearly it was the right choice. And I do mean the right choice. I could see how that whole opportunity would have prevented me speaking to you now. So for me, I'm clear that my awakening has a purpose. And I'm speaking to you like this in this specific case, as if my whole life was organized to say this now and to keep saying this now in the context of the opportunity for us as awakened beings to collaborate together, to create the necessary shift in the collective consciousness so that all the structures of denial and distortion and diffusion and compromise can be seen. And then for us to be able to hold the impossibility of a solution, to hold the paradox. Do we cease to exist, or do we continue to exist in a way we don't know yet? And the more ability we are able to do that, the more we empower the world mother, the feminine sustaining principle that has been trying to help mankind all along come forward, empowering the feminine into this masculine, ignorant, go forward no matter what, damn the costs. That has brought us to this unstable point. So the first thing for me, especially when I became acutely aware of it, although my teacher spoke of this in his book, Manifesting Divine. Those of you in the youth group who are studying this, you're seeing that he was languaging this principle after I had been with him about 4 years, 5 years. He hasn't spoken much since. Pretty much LA kicked him out. But I've taken up the mantle, probably because I was meant to. But the languaging of that was the recognition that we are in this time of transition, and that just as the Gita, there is a battle between the forces of light and dark, and that there is an intervening force that comes in to support the light, to give it the power and the capacity to meet the dark. Now, what will that do? It will awaken the world. And it is. I don't think there's any doubt that we are in peril of a number of levels of possibilities, but it's not going to end here because there's an inevitable outcome of consequences that have yet to be met. The inequality, the injustice, the distortion of the whole idea of a corporate who becomes a living entity with no responsibility. There is so many principles where the dark forces have slipped in over the centuries, even little fault points, little failures in the organization of man's creation. And what we're doing now is we're creating a new spirituality. We're creating a spirituality that's not based on thousands of years of tradition, although they all are valuable and served us. They are no longer have the credibility. Only a few carry some remnant, and even those have been disgraced in so many ways of that credibility. We have to create a credibility of our own lived lives. We have to create a new basis for truth, for love, for being in existence, than the one that was based on a belief system or a set of rules or rights and wrongs or guilt and shame. We have to create a new order of being that where it's not science alone, which is will end up in a desert of material understanding. It has to include not only the facts of physical existence, but this foundational principle in which the entire creation arises. I didn't bring the printout. And what is this? It's the miracle of this world. It's the miracle of this planet. It's the phenomena that is the foundational structure in which this whole battlefield is occurring. It's the ultimate field of which our little bodies are the field for our own individual battle. The miracle of the body of the planet is directly related to the miracle of our embodied physical body. Learning to move into relationship with the miracle of our own body is how we lift the planet collectively. Mother Earth cannot do this because this creation we're living in, that we've been living in for the last 300 years or so, is a man creation. It brought men and women are expressions of that principle of the evolutionary purpose. But along the way, we lost the alignment. We lost the balance between the male and the female, the creator and the sustainer. We lost this balance that would allow this new reality to be sustainable. So we're drawing forward a different order, a new paradigm, a new way of being that includes, not excludes, that sees the unmet, recognizing its existence and finding the lesson, recovering from that darkness, that error, the hidden truth, and integrating that, recognizing our vulnerabilities, recognizing our structures of self-protection, our strategies for being safe, feeling comfortable, recognizing within the field of our own embodiment that it is actually a universal structure being worked out in our own individual awakening process is the key of our purpose. It is the labor of this work. So what to do? How do we align ourselves with our purpose? What do I speak about? What does the Gita speak about? Some other books speak about. What does every teacher who is connected to this work speaks about? You've had to find what's asleep or obscured in you. Find what's you veil yourself from. Find what you're denying, what you don't want to know, what you're pretending is not there. To find the part of you that's bypassing, that's not here, that's projecting opportunities or onto other people, things that aren't true. The veiling of you as an experiencer and a perceiver, to begin to separate your ability to know and experience from the reality of what's arising within your own system. Find how you are responsible for how life is showing up for you. Be willing to have that inquiry. Be willing to be exposed the uncomfortable, the painful, the difficult, and to hold it in the space until the nature of that obscurity begins to unfold and reveal itself through ways that the mind cannot follow, but the body can, the heart can, the gut can. And in that meeting of it, the subliminal becomes aware, and we begin to wake up more truly. We begin to become a channel for this intervention, this Krishna principle that's here on the planet, waiting for us to receive it. And we begin to feel or recover our ability to experience this purposeful current that's so intense during these times. We come to responsibility for not taking actions that are aligned with that revelation and process, that uncovering. We get the action where we find our faults, where we meet the dejection of not being good enough, the overwhelm of not being able to tolerate it, the structures that we have habituated, taken on, or created that keep us small, incapable, too big for me. The believing the story of the mind, what we read, what we hear, rather than following the wisdom of our bodies and the knowingness of the heart. We need to see with new eyes, hear with new ears, to come into relationship with those parts of ourselves that is not yet embodied, not yet here. Because this problem lies in the lower subterranean structures of our individual body as they lie in these subterranean structures of the collective consciousness. And these subterranean structures, some of which are just ignorance, but some of which are vicious and intelligent and capable of working over long periods of time to fulfill their purpose, which is the destruction of the opportunity of the unfoldment of consciousness in human beings. Now, when you wake up to the dark forces, you begin to meet them. You see the powers that they carry in the plane, but their powers are nothing unless they can catch someone, to get hooked into someone, to have someone become the channel for their interest. And we see these people right now. We see it in Trump. We see it in we see it in any sociopath. We see it in Putin. We see it in all dictators. We see it in everybody who's playing the nice guy or the attractive person who carries a power. And they're very convincing. They have power because they're not just their own human power. They're drawing this power from these awake dark forces. We've got to be able to see this, experience this. We have to hold it, not like victims, not to be afraid of, but in the recognition of the truth of it. I know when I first began to meet the dark powers, for whatever reason, I felt a thrill. As by seeing them, the piece of their power came to me and became a furthering of my divine awakening. That the very thing we're scared of in our nightmares and our dark moments in our life are actually waiting for us to meet them, and by meeting them, transmute them. And in transmuting them, convert their dark power into a power for light and truth and love. So ultimately, this capacity to wake up to what's still hidden, to become responsible for the way we're creating our life, to become aware that we're the causing how life shows up for us, empowers us to meet greater and greater degrees of darkness and be able to see that the darkness is not us, although that's its first convincing grip on us. We believe our fear is ours. We believe our distrust is ours. We believe the hatred, the anger, the violence, the vengeance is ours. And that's how they trick us. And then they possess us and take us over for a period of time until the greater truth of us recovers. Learning to see, there it is. Look at me. I'm being overtaken. And to be able to ride the current of riding this is like taming a bull, is a skill that happens over the course of time as you step out of just your own individual transformation and you align yourself with this universal work. There's some of you who are with me in this work. And it's not like a big deal because it's so there, so there, so there. And when you return to your ordinary consciousness, it's like a woman recovering from pregnancy and forgetting how difficult it was to have a child. It is simply a process. And what's the power we have is our presence, our awakened presence. Because nothing false can stand up or survive the fierce light of the truth of what we are. In fact, those times, especially for those who are connected to me, where you feel totally defeated and caught up in the structures you believe are yours, you are doing the work because I'm there with you. We are together in this labor. And there are many, many beings in the collective consciousness that are aligned with all of us, that are here for the purpose of restoring the Dharma, for being able to articulate. Where do you think these words come from? These are not my words. I'm a channel for that principle that is speaking with clarity the nature of our predicament to empower you to be able to access that within yourself. All of us become vehicles by which all the gods that are aligned and the principles that are aligned can find a channel so that I can be an instrument, so I can be a vessel for the universe to bring this message into the world and to empower you to discover this capacity in yourself. Now, I got to tell you, right now, anyone who's an American citizen needs to vote. I don't care if you think it's spiritual or not. It's very clear to me that that is the action. Choose sides. Now, there were wonderful people in the Kauravas army. There was Bhishma, the carrier of the traditions. There was Karna, the awakened being who became an instructor for how to fight in the battles using spiritual forces, training humans. They became unwittingly lost in the diffusion, the separation of these two principles that were before in both parties and have taken positions. So you'll see noble people in the dark side and you'll see normal people in the light side, but you'll see a whole more quantum difference in those on the light side. And what makes that difference is our choosing. So for this country, which has been holding the light for the world, this upcoming election is the deciding moment. And between now and November 4th, you'll see the darkness and the light in great clarity in this country. And to any other country that you live in, where you can begin to recognize these forces of dark and the forces of light. You have to choose. You have to take a stand. Because the human in you has that role to play. So I hope this goes out to the 1,000 of you or 1,500 of you that are out there. Because in this point, the state of consciousness you're in, this ordinary human action will be like a sword that will clarify what's before us and also do the surgery that allows for the possibility of our future that would otherwise deeply uncertain. What is asleep or obscured or distorted in you? Find your responsibility at each level. Come to cause. What is your Dharma at each level? What is the actions needed at each level? To love, to let go, to release, to include, to stay in the difficulty of the moment you're in, or to change something. These movements of awakening are always going to evoke a right action. And that aligning with your awakening is when we start changing our lives aligned with our purpose at every level. Now, what does that look in the level of consciousness? Well, that's most of the work we can do, especially the mind. But it's really the level of action that we bring into existence, the new possibility in a decisive way that will impact the unfolding of this current time of peril that we're in. And test your actions. See what you can do. Now, we've invited and set up structures for people to do world peace meditations, global groups, inquiry groups, study groups. Those actions of those of you who set that up are empowering people to join you, join your group, to participate and begin to discover this unfolding acceleration of their own possibility for awakening with you, to tap into, wittingly or unwittingly, this alignment of forces that is trying to happen now to support the manifestation of truth and love in the world in such a way that we can come out of this ignorance, this hatred, this vengeance, this separation, this distortion. It has never been clearer. These are our times. So commit, make a choice and commit to it. Stay with it, the one that's aligned with truth. Focus your life, make that your priority. And in the process, keep watching how your own capacity to be in existence, both within all those layers of yourself you've been meeting up to now, expand your ability to go deeper and to be able to see that every time you're in alignment with other people taking this action, the unfolding of the truth of what you are and the possibility you carry within your own embodiment for becoming an instrument and channel for this purpose, this period of time, this peril, to meet it and meet the challenge that it's calling of us. So courage. And in courage, we reclaim our life. In courage, we take the step beyond the boundary of our familiar zones, even in our spiritual life. We risk. Whenever you're up against a risk, pay attention to what you feel you're risking. Notice the fear, notice the vulnerability, the uncertainty, the not knowing, no guaranteed future. And you create it in spite, the action that goes beyond yourself. We need to be courageous. We need to know we make that difference. We need to know that you make that difference and that your actions matter. And you do this by taking those actions. Create a purposeful life. All right. Now, that's about as much truth as you need in a morning or a day or an evening, right? Yeah, but let this sink in a minute. Let it sink in. Because it is calling us up. It's a call up to what it is that we're doing. Get over our bitching and moaning. Getting over our explanations and justifications, our rationalizations. I'm too small, it's too big. Don't worry about that. The universe is taking care of that. You just take the action aligned with it. Don't believe your doubt. Don't believe your confusion. Don't believe your overwhelm. Just notice it's a temporary condition as you expand out of what you've known before. Step through, step out of the overwhelm. Maybe not a large step. Some of you will have to take small steps so that you can increase your capacity simply by the choosing to go beyond what the overwhelm would have you choose or act. This incremental movement is as powerful and courageous as these big leaps that we'll be able to do in the future. Now, most of you have only been with me 3 or 4 years. A few of you have been here longer. But for the most part, it gets better, as well as getting harder. It is a process of growing into the fullness of the role you are carrying, to come out of your own little individual envelope of adaptation and desire and hope and wish and all those other things that we still cling to unwittingly, into the true authority. All you have to do is take the actions that are aligned with the awakening that's already occurring in you. And all you have to do is trust your own experience. Have faith in yourself, in the validity of those actions when they actually are producing the recognition of your greater truth and your greater awakening and your greater capacity. There's part of you that keeps trying to diminish those things or dismiss those things or to discount those things. Is this influence that comes through the mind of the subtle forces that's saying, oh, no, you don't have to change. Oh, no, it's too dangerous. Oh, no, you can't trust this guy. Oh, no, whatever. Quit being an instrument for the ignorance. Stand in the truth of your own experience. And you'll discover in there the core of the purpose, the power of the purpose is love. Love for the world. Love for humanity. A love that's God's love itself, which has been forgotten because it was so veiled by religion, but is now so immediately available when we awaken to it. It's out of that ocean of love that we're willing to sacrifice ourselves for something greater. Feel that current in you. Feel your heart expand to that possibility. Recognize that that's the truth, and the doubt and I can't and all the other little issues of convenience are not. I have people living here with me, and they're recognizing the maturing of what's happening to them. They're starting to stand in their authority. You saw on Tuesday, Satyapriya and Satdas come forward. Some of you saw Adi Shakti yesterday with me with the questions and answers. I'm going to give them a larger and larger opportunity to grow in the capacity, their growing capacity, so that it will not become stagnant, that it will continue to expand. And there is others working vigorously with New Dharma. And they too are expanding in their capacity. I have 3 of them sitting in the room managing this video. There are others who are human beings. They don't know they're awake, and they're dedicating their life way beyond their job description. It's an inevitable outcome when a true purpose begins to manifest, that people become empowered to begin to demonstrate that power. And you'll see more of this in the future. And that's my role with all of you, to the extent that New Dharma can, is to provide a structure for you to begin to strengthen your capacity to manifest that divine possibility within yourself. It's your choice to do that or not, to commit to that or not. And what is your capacity? It's my experience that for those of you who are still in the obligations of your human dharma, that is somewhat more limited than someone who has gone beyond or has completed enough of their human dharma. And if you want to know which you are, then you should talk to one of our mentors or bring it forward as we do our interactions to know what, is there an appropriateness to this, right? Boy, the truth to me just wants to say, forget appropriate. But the recognition is that we want to have the human be able to use the life as the means to expand your awakening.
Okay.
All right. We're at the high point of the hour. So now we'll open this up to any and all of you who would like to come forward and join me in this inquiry. Join me into this in your own personal experience and what the opportunity we're speaking to.
Okay,
All right.
so first up is Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
a true
Hello.
English lady.
It sparked off a memory of when I think it was in the last silent retreat, and it was a kind of vision, and I was suddenly seeing in front of me the Prince of Darkness, and I got very frightened. And I was just looking up then because I was looking at my notes. And in fact, he lives off the power of humans. And he sees through humans' eyes. And he feeds off power of humans. And he's very proud. And because I got so frightened, I jumped into Shree's heart. Obviously not the form as we know it, but Shree. And the reason why it was so powerful was because being in the heart of Shree, I was completely without division. There was no separation at all. So when I looked out, I never saw anything separate. And because of that, the Prince of Darkness walked past us. He didn't even see us. It's as if we didn't exist.
Because we're the source of the Prince of Darkness.
Yes, exactly. That was what I saw.
He can't see that which is the source
He
of
can't,
him.
he couldn't see it because he was deriving his power from us.
Yes. And when you meet these darknesses, there's often this huge expansion of this principle of love, truth in our system. We take back the power that they carry by capturing people's attention to their violence, to their fear, to their threats, to their anger. If you look at the nature of fear, we become the victim of that which we fear. When you took residence in the Krishna that I am, which is there with you, when you made that step, you did just what Arjuna needed to do at various points in the Mahabharata, when he met forces of darkness greater than himself, that he did not yet know how to be with.
No, I didn't know how to be with
Yes.
it.
With those of you who do have the encounters in the subtle universal worlds with the dark forces, if you can remember my name, if you can remember your connection to me, you will find a capacity to be there. Now, what Patricia was able to do is be in that experience with enough consciousness to enter into what she calls Shree's heart. And when she discovered her own heart and its capacity, which is much greater than the darkness, because it doesn't know the heart. It has no power over the heart.
It has no heart at all.
It has no heart at all. It doesn't even have a soul. It actually only has the existence of the pretense, of the appearance that tricks people into fearing it.
Yes, because it was a fabrication.
Yes.
It was a fabrication. It wasn't actually real, but it looked like Darth Vader.
There
And
you
he
go.
was striding about, really powerful. Really.
We have a president here in this country that demonstrates that principle, but he has this appearance of an orange clown. But in fact, he is the most dangerous person, not the most, actually, Putin is the most dangerous expression of the Ashurics on the planet. Don't be fooled. So the nature of these things are being able to also see when they aren't so willing to show their full character, which would bring fear or would be very threatening. and those that are looking like harmless or like a huggable creature, like what is it? It, the Stephen King movie, It, like a clown with balloons. So it is all appearances that carries behind it an insidious, sinister purpose that your psychic being can sense, but your mind may not be able to recognize it. But your mind will come to get overtaken by the reaction in your lower chakras, in your own subliminal self, that will be reptilian, because that's where superstition rose up. That's where monsters rose up from. And we did not succeed as children to meet those monsters within our own selves that came up in our nightmares. It's only as adults. So Patricia, it's a reflection of your own maturation. Coming out of yourself as just an individually mature, awakened being into your universal awakening. And where is her battlefield? It's in her samadhis. It's in these moments where she's in the field of this energy, where she becomes a partner with me in meeting these forces that most of humanity is not able to be with. Okay, thank you. I know who you are. Bye.
Next up is Kelly.
Kelly, welcome. Namaste.
Namaste. I thought that I needed to come up. One of the last things you said was to kind of make an offering if you're confused, if you need to stay where you are or not, come up or talk to a coach. And I am there. And I was reading your book this morning in chapter 2, and I just I know I don't know right now. And so, I spent my entire life training to become a teacher, and now, built my identity around it. And I don't know, there's something that feels very truthful about it, but I don't know if I've just really created a very airtight identity around it. I'm confused. I don't know.
Yeah, good, perfect. You're in transition. So, when I speak, what's your experience? I'm speaking of this thing, peril and purpose. What's happening for you?
I feel invigorated and I want to quit my job and do something for New Dharma, and that's it.
Okay, so where do you feel that in your body?
I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my diaphragm.
Good. That's the important thing. That's the purpose. It's almost hard to bear because it expands you so much, right? So this is all you have to stay in touch with. Because when you're in touch with the purpose, you're in touch with the barrel. That means the risk of not being able to live the purpose. The cost, possibly, of not being able to live the purpose. And that's right where you need to be. Now you have children, you have obligations. As I have other people who are with me with the same capacity you carry. You need to play your part as a human. You need to be the mother. You need to fulfill the immediate obligations of your material life and feel this. And you will find opportunities to participate. Right? Now, notice what you're feeling right now. What's this? Yeah.
I just feel like I don't want to be I feel like I come up like every 6 months, and I'm like, tell me to quit everything and move to Washoe, and you're like, no. And I just, it just gets bigger and bigger and harder to hold. And so
This is the perfect place. I'm sorry, Kelly, but it's already awakened you. It's already doing the work. You being able to hold it instead of express it is the labor. Because what you're in touch with is both the peril and the purpose simultaneous, the grief of the separation of you fulfilling your Dharma, the possibility that you won't be able to serve your purpose in this life, and the purpose itself. They come together. It's a package deal. So it's a current. Now just feel how deep it is. Go all the way down to your first chakra and check your second chakra, your third chakra. Feel this anguish. Feel this need to manifest. Feel the vibration in your diaphragm, in your heart, in your throat. How little there is in your head. There's nothing there. That's your divine nature inhabiting you. And that's the Krishna that you are. Becoming a vessel for that is to hold and fulfill the Dharma you're currently in. And then an opportunity will show itself proportional to what you are carrying in the obligations of your human life. And then you'll know that it may never be enough. And when you are in the flame, all you want to do is burn and nothing else matters. See, that's devotion and it's aspiration, simultaneous. So Kelly, you couldn't be in a more perfect place. Just endure calmly. Have faith in the future. Have faith in my words. It will unfold in a way where you will be able to stand strong when the time comes. And there are things that you can do, and there's something you will have opportunity to make space for. But that's important for you to control your rajas so you don't create unnecessary projects. So you just have space where nothing's happening. And then within that space, you'll see you could do a meditation group or a world peace meditation. There will become this, perhaps join the next GTP. So all of these will be means by which you can integrate both your human life and your spiritual life. But just know I feel you with me. And I know you feel that I'm with you. So it's perfect. It's enough.
thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, next up is Marlene.
Marlene. Namaste, Marlene. I
Namaste.
recognize you. This is our second time at least.
Yes, thank you so much. I really felt it. And I would like to feel also when I feel my dark side, my hidden side, and I feel the pain. I want to go off it. How can I hold it? And because I so want to resolve it, but probably I'm too impatient, or how can I stay there and not with my mind figuring the answer, or but to feel and stay in my body?
Perfect question. And you're right, you're in the vicinity of your own answer, which is the pain is the resistance to what is arising. It's not what's actually arising. So when you experience the pain without a label, without a name, take the pain name off, and you feel the anguish, the despair, the grief, the anger, the resent, all the compounds as an energy in a location in your body. Don't add any part of you that wants to fix it or make it go away. You're learning to come to something in a committed way, as if forever, to be able to include this energy vibration you're calling pain in the experience, your capacity of your own experiential body to hold it. Because it comes from when we're a child, where we have very little capacity to be with pain, where we want to act out, and then we get organized as we grow older, and we're no longer aware of ourselves as that child, but it pops up in any circumstance where our desire or our fear overtakes us, and we become the little child again. So when you can take these actions as the adult that you are now, you can meet those parts of yourself that has not been mature enough and be with those parts of yourself so that their pain can be held by you, the grown-up, the parent, the adult of your life, and allow for it to be. Because that's all pain needs, is to be experienced. It just needs to be felt. It's the cry, your individual cry of your child, of the little girl in the different stages of your life who didn't know how to be in life. And then all the times you've unwittingly been overtaken by it in the course of your relationships, in the course of your encounter and bringing yourself into the world. So know these as experiential things. And the healing is to be the mother for your child. The healing is to be the wisdom and the space and the presence for that being, that piece of you, that fragment of you, so that it can be complete. It can be met. It can be seen and thereby validated. And then all the pain associated with that begins to relax and release, or it converts into simply an energy of love, of your purpose, of truth in your body. Okay, you got it?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. So I just met Marlene's pain by giving it permission to be, giving her an understanding so that she can have her own permission for it to be. And she becomes her own healer in the process. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Well, do we have other types of questions? Still early.
Well, I mean, we can just keep,
Oh,
Oh,
all I
see,
have
Give
to
it a
do is
minute.
say that and
it'll pop up.
yeah.
There's popcorn, right?
You
They're
just-
all kernels. We're just waiting for you to pop.
Karen.
okay, so we have Karen.
Karen's up.
Yeah, we can just be in the silence and it'll show up.
Hey,
No,
Karen.
they're all coming.
Hey, Karen. Yeah.
I just wanted to reconnect, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the hinterland sometimes, but what you spoke today, Shree, just lifted my energy up to that force and that power that I experience. And there's joy in it, there's exhilaration, and I watched the Democratic convention last night too, and it was such a joy to see some Barack Obama, the way he spoke, just it re-enlivened what the hope and the possibility that we as a country and individually we have to manifest more light in the world. And that was so wonderful to be in that energy, and you here today repeating that, and I can feel it. And the thought of the Republican convention going on next week, I think I can't watch that. It's too I know you say that we need to to put like Donald Trump on the altar and just be with it. I can understand that the Ashuric forces that are running through him, and I don't have any real animosity toward him, but it's just so dark, and why put my attention on it?
So not your attention, your presence. So be bigger than the part of you that could be overtaken by using your heart, and hold the impossibility. Be in the discomfort and the expansion that it requires to watch segments or bits and pieces as much as you can tolerate, because some of us can only tolerate a little bit of poison.
Yeah,
But you know poison.
I do.
And that's part of the reason you live in joy. So you don't have to directly be in the front of it. So you will see the corruption of power, and you will have to feel that, and the injustice, the cruelty, the selfishness, the self-interest. Holding that in your heart expands your capacity to be with the poison. And this is the maturing that you can do this anywhere.
Yeah, I
Poison.
feel like I've been doing it a lot my whole life.
Yes, you've pretty much been working for it. But the principle here is for you to be present with that part of you that you gave your authority away to them in the course of your life unwittingly, as their child or as your employer, or and so on, to be able to find the betrayal that we unwittingly did as a victim in the situations where we're enthralled by the power, especially male power, and to be able to recover your own unique greater power, your female power, to hold your wayward children as powerless pretenses for an extreme vulnerability in which they can never access consciously without being utterly defeated. So they're incapable humans that have created a false presentation, just like the dark forces. Sound and fury, but really there's nothing there. You're much greater than that. And what makes you much greater is this heart and the purpose that you're so aligned with. So the job for those of you who wish to take the battlefield into their TV or computer, you also need to watch the Republican convention. Now, how much can you watch? Just take small dosages. Watch what goes on in your body. Look at the outrage and the reaction. Just go ahead, because that is yet the reptilian response, the visceral response, the psychological response. And you'll find something else hidden underneath those. And it will strengthen you. It will expand your system in ways that you haven't been before. Your joy will turn into a capacity for being of a different order. Okay. All right, Karen.
Thank you.
There's your instructions as a comrade in this battle.
Okay, next up is Kalima.
Kalima.
Kentucky.
Hello, Kentucky Kalima.
Hello, Satyamai, Sat Shree. This talk today, Sat Shree, just is like the key and the lock for me. It just made everything right inside of me. And we just came from a small Gita group, Kelly and Anna and I, and we were considering the question in relation to chapter 2. How do I come into greater alignment with my purpose? And what came up for me was simply the will to be. And I know that my purpose is to serve Sat Shree and to serve the Divine Mother. And I don't need to know what that looks like. I'm just simply here. And I'm willing.
Well, you know, Kalima, you have a role to play with me in my work. And I do believe you probably should arrange some time to come to Washoe for an extended period. And I will show you a labor that's proportional to your capacity. And that's the only thing that's missing is you need to have a labor that's proportional to your capacity so you can discover what you've become. So that's my invitation.
I accept.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Burma.
All right. Hello,
Hello,
hello.
Burma.
Hey, what a
Good to-
pleasure to see both of you.
Oh, same here.
Good to see you.
Wonderful gift you both are. I'm gonna like hone in on something that I noticed, which became very apparent after you answered a bunch of questions yesterday, Satri, which I thought was a wonderful gift for us. I went down a road and I realized yesterday I was really in the desert at a dead end. And it came around the Sat Force when I experienced it, I felt I was in my awareness, and in that state, it became very reductionist, like I was in awareness. So I wasn't believing thoughts and that sort of thing. And I was in a mental detachment. And I realized yesterday I have followed that detaching to the degree where I lost my connection with my heart.
Mhm.
And it seems as though my physical conditions and the challenges that I'm dealing with are intentionally bringing me back into my body to make me more aware of my body. And I'm handling things really well. I'm doing pretty good, all in all. But what happened? I don't get it. What happened, Satri?
Well, you're looking through the veil of the habit of mind.
Yeah.
That's what it is. When you look through the veil of the habit of mind, it's nihilism. It's non-existence. It strips away all meaning, strips away
Right.
all value, strips
Yeah.
everything away, right? So then what all there is, and even in Nietzsche, who speaks of this nihilistic state of consciousness, is he recognized we can create, we can invent out of nothing. We can bring into existence the organizing principle of existence. Or we can just bring into existence an awareness of our heart. Literally taking this fierce truth awareness that you have, Brahma, and taking that quality of end of the road as far as you can go with truth only, and put it there in the experiential center of your heart and watch.
Now, yeah, I've been with you over 5 years, and I recall you encouraging me to do that. But I don't feel like I chose to go on this excursion trip to nowhere. But can you give me any
Something
pointers?
else chose it in you that's not able to imagine she can have the authority or the power to create a new existence for herself. Yes, this problem with the current of someone who goes in their own awakening and becomes stable in the self-awareness is, yes, there is an effort and a process, but after a while, it's like, well, we let the universe take over. and the universe will take over and it will carry you, but it will carry you proportional to your capacities. And if your capacity is more in awareness, well, it's going to carry you to the limits of your awareness. But if you wish to integrate and wish to become also human, you have to invite or bring that awareness down and invite it to come up and join you. It's a choice. It's an action that's coming out of an intent to empower your embodiment. Now, the heart's the entry point, but your embodiment includes your diaphragm, includes your third chakra, your second chakra, your first chakra. So it's coming into existence in the field of your embodiment. Because then you actually start awakening the current that's already there in you. I know it is, but it's not been able to develop because you unwittingly are allowing the forces that take you to awareness to have the greater authority.
So can you suggest to someone like me, an old lady, what steps to take?
Love me.
Well, that's easy to do. I already do that.
Good. Keep loving me. I know you love me because I feel you in my body.
Right.
Just love. Feel that love. Now notice just saying that,
Yeah.
how that shifts this conversation.
Yeah.
That is actually what you choose. You choose the love. Let for once the awareness step aside its own independent self-will and surrender to this relationship as the healing of lifetimes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The cord is there, heart to heart.
Yes. That'll do it for you.
Okay.
And that will also empower you to use that capable awareness, to not believe its distrust and its habitual strategies of protecting its own separate self.
Well, it's such a weird time we're living in, like you said, this whole COVID thing and not trusting information and wondering if anything can make a difference and all
You
those.
can't do it from there. You can't do it from the distrust. You catch yourself in distrust and fear, then you know you're on the wrong track.
I know I'm on the wrong track.
Yeah, so good. Then you go, and then in that moment, choose love. Choose, okay, I got it, and it's all in God's hand. All I need to do is love.
All
Because
right.
if you die tomorrow versus 10 more years from now, so what? You want to die with love in your heart.
Exactly. You got that.
Yep.
All right.
I'm not that far away either.
Yeah.
All right, my dear.
Thank
Namaste.
you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Next up is Radha Krishna.
Radha, my Radha.
Hey, girl.
Hey, good to see you.
So I want to thank you for the last intensive. And since then, I've been working on my to-do list.
Fill out application. Or just write to Satyapriya.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that to you. You probably already know it, but for so many people who send me such tender emails, I want you to know I'm okay. Thank you, Shree.
Thank you, Radha.
Love you, Radha. See you soon.
Okay, next up is Adi Deva.
Adi Deva. Namaste.
Adi Devi.
Adi Devi.
Devi.
Yes, that's it.
Hi.
Namaste. Good to see you.
To see you, thank you. Excuse me. I've forgotten now who you even said it to, but about being present, bringing presence to this is really helping me because I grew up with a man who has a lot of Trump's traits, a bully, huge bully, very terrifying man. He didn't embody evil the way Trump does, at least not at all, but And I've had so much healing around my father and those issues, and understanding the woundedness of that man, the damage that was done to him and his father. And I don't know where it all started, but I know some of the stories. And I feel like in this lifetime, this is a lot of my work. I was an activist out in the world, but there's a lot of working with that darkness in myself. First dealing with my father, but that the homicidal rage that he had that also exists in me, that when I was younger became turned into suicidal.
Very good. Correct.
Stuff, but
Good understanding.
and Trump brings it out in me. So it's like, oh, you know, I mean, I feel this, I see his face and the hatred. There's this clench in my heart. I know bullies are cowards because I lived with one. So I know him in some ways. I'm not afraid of him, but the hatred. And so this may sound odd, but it's one of the reasons I've decided to stay on Facebook. There's a lot of toxicity there, and I recognize that. But I'm working with, I use it as a practice, not all the time. I forget and I get caught up in stuff, but I really, especially him, that face, when I see it, and it's on there a lot with all these articles, but I'm not anywhere near, you know, how do I include him and all these other beings who are doing these, engaged in these dark, cruel, sadistic behaviors, and how do I include them in love in my heart? And I'm not, and what you said about presence, I think is maybe the clue or the key of not, I can't manufacture love toward them, but
not yet.
I can practice being present.
Yeah.
The presence is an entry point. The presence is the impersonal aspect of yourself that can be in the hatred. Now, hatred is obviously a contracted, locked up structure.
Yes.
In your case, it lives in your diaphragm, in your gut, and it is a consequence of the trauma of your upbringing and your husband and all the rest of that. So there's a quantum of your individual embodiment that's still caught up into that rigidity of that structure. So you have to give yourself time, and you do have the power of your presence, and that being aware of it. Then the next invitation is obviously be aware of the location of the hatred in your body. And that's when you begin to use your presence to meet the particular structures of contractions that are associated with the trauma and the reaction, of course, to any trigger to that trauma that's still locked up in the visceralness of your physicality. And then you stay present with that. When you stay present with that, is you will meet the despair that came as a victim of hatred, because it's not love, it's opposite of love. You have no validity. You have no deserving to exist. You are non-existent. You should not exist. That event is as primal as non-existence. It's in there, is the absolute. Now, for a child, they can't bear absolute. To be invalidated by a parent or a person who you look up to or you trusted, and to have the opposite. I mean, hatred's about as opposite as possible can happen. There's no way to be with it as a child. And so it gets stuck with it. It gets stuck with the vibration of the hatred. The father feels better. The husband feels better that you're poisoned with their hatred. And that chunk of poison is going to remain in place until you can come into existence in relationship with it. Because what's keeping it in place cannot by itself come into existence. It's all those little parts of yourself as a little girl who consequently kept being programmed with hatred. Now, I've worked with other people who have this very same issue, are born in parts of the world very dark, where hatred and incapacity and is being projected outward because it's always coming from someone who's been deeply invalidated. So hatred and violence are the one way they can bring themselves in existence, by poisoning others. And then they get some relief from the poison they carry. So your system is an unwilling holder of that poison and does not choose to express the hatred or the vengeance or the cruelty outwardly. But the danger is it turns it in on itself. It becomes the self-hatred, as you pointed to. So the principle is to feel it as a visceral event occurring in your body by being present, finding its location, holding it for as long as you can tolerate, because once you're with it and you're holding it, it starts unfolding. Because by holding it as in presence, you're giving it permission to be. So it can come up as a physical reaction in your body, a sense of illness or vomit or pain. Hold it, the pain, this early symptom. Let it unfold. Notice if it starts hitting, impacting other parts of your body than that location. Be the witness to the unfolding of that chunk within your own body. It will start then and begin to awaken the psychological grief component, the anguish, the sorrow, and that's the beginning of the healing. So the hatred will convert into other things, which will be grief, sorrow, shame, whatever that may be, whatever labels we give to it, but still stay with all of those as in awareness, as experiences that are arising without the labels, and feel them in locations in your body for as long as you're capable of. If you get overtaken, if it just seems like too much, step back and resource. Resource your heart, resource our relationship, resource something of beauty that brings you peace and fulfillment, and stay there and let yourself strengthen and recover your awareness. And then at another time, dive into that territory again. So you have a particular role to play in the collective darkness by meeting this one piece of chunk of the collective hatred in your own body. And that these are just representatives of the opportunity for you, the work that you have before you. Slowly, this principle of self-love will grow in this authority in you, this self-respect and this regard in yourself as a divine being for the purpose of transmuting darkness will empower you to continue to strengthen until you can see what you already know in your awareness, which are they're all just expressions of deeply traumatized beings that don't know how to be in existence any other way but this way. Okay.
Not connected what I'm feeling. Something just flashed in my mind. I hold grudges. I have a terrible time with grudges and letting go. I mean, I've worked with it, and they're like, and it's like right here. It's right in my diaphragm. It's like, no, I'm not going to let go.
Good. There's the next thing. We went from hatred to grudges. Now, it's not quite the same intensity, but you see it's starting to move already. It's showing you a more available, accessible part. But to be in touch with that is a sensation like you're finding it. And then you'll discover the cost of the grudge. This whole grudging thing is really a form of hatred or an expectation for the world to be different than it is.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, this is a form of suicide. It's a form of self-diminishment. To become the victim is what a grudge is. And therefore, that's a resentment and the projection that someone isn't doing what they should be doing, or they're not giving you what they should give you, or they didn't behave the way you wanted to do. That's the other side of the hatred structure, which is the power that can hate. So the unexpressed power of your own individual personhood coming into existence because it was not given permission. So grudging is just a low-level secondary offshoot of discovery of how little you were supported in coming to existence as yourself. And you're not a woman of small power. You create a large power, but it just hasn't been converted into the human personality and the life that you of your embodiment. And that's your work with me. It'll also be the process of you meeting with that through that work, your role in the collective, because that is your Dharma, but also in the process of restoring the unlived parts of your human self, and which will always be love and compassion, the willingness to forgive, the ability to see how people are taking actions without knowing what they're doing. Namaste.
Thank you. And next up is Kristen.
Kristen, good to see you.
Good to see you. I wasn't expecting to be next, so
Good.
yeah. So I was just going to come up and say, I don't know what to say. Can you tell me something? But there are a couple things. First, I'm so glad that you're okay. And I find it fascinating that because of your injury, Satyapriya and Sat Das spoke yesterday.
It opened the door.
Yes.
Of the future.
Yes. And it was very powerful. I'd had a dream that morning that I was with a group of people and we were processing some substance. We were refining it, purifying it. And I looked around me and I saw that they were doing it more efficiently, and I shifted to the way they were doing it. And so it felt really good. And what I felt in listening to Satyapriya and Sat Das was the power of their sharing their process. That I know in my case, my ego is always comparing. It's so easy to think that people who are further on the path had it easy. They didn't. They were born that way. You know, all those conversations. And so it was.
Yeah, it's just the vulnerability. We're all equal in the vulnerability, the immediacy, the not knowing, without a plan or strategy. When we speak from that place, something true and real comes into existence. That's equal to all of us who are willing to take action, to come into existence from vulnerability. So that is a more efficient process than figuring it out.
Yes. And I've really taken to heart what you said to me about stop trying to figure it out.
And heart's a good place to take it because this part can't take it.
No. It's like, and what I'm noticing lately, things are just exploding. And what I'm noticing is that I'm seeing things I've known pretty much my whole life. But it's like, I'm getting it. It's like the first time.
So this is getting real. Getting real is getting deeper into the recognition of the peril, in the recognition of the role you have to play and our own way we keep ourselves in states of incapacity. Getting real is to feel costs, to feel the impact in your body, not just on you and the world. So waking up is not just knowing. Waking up is also experiencing that knowing in your body. Then it's more real, because the body is the definer of reality. If there wasn't a body, you would not know you existed. Consciousness would not know it existed. A body is the basis of all the forms of consciousness that lives in all the other planes. It is the body that knows the ultimate knowing. And that was the lesson of chapter 13, the knower and the field. Yeah, so it's very important. So this is a deepening into the process, being in the immediacy, being in the vulnerability, and taking action aligned with your purpose is a powerful way of expanding your capacity to be and to align, of course, with that very fundamental aspect of our purpose.
So related to that, when we interacted on Saturday, you said that the universe had taken over. You know, the psychic being was bringing all of these revelations to me. And so how, but you said that's not really embodiment. So how does that relate to embodiment? Is it a stage? Is it?
Well, it's clear it's about action. It's about taking action aligned with your new awakened purpose. So in your case, it would probably be to organize a study group or a meditation group or a world peace meditation or something of that sort, where you were taking actions and you use the structure of New Dharma to assist you in making it more lived. Because then what the universe is showing you will be, you'll be more there to get it. Because when you're playing a role for me in the world, in any one of those, you will discover a greater access to this authority, this knower, this experiencer you already are, through the process of time. I like to say it's like faking it till you make it, but it is play the role. And by playing the role, the perfection will come automatically. That's what I've discovered, and that is what's working. And in that process, what's next for you will start becoming more and more clear. But initially, it may be a leap at a practical level.
Or not.
Yeah, or not. Then it's just an action, a choice, a decision, a commitment. Okay, my dear, that's
Okay.
going to have to be all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Megan.
Megan, namaste. Have we met before?
Namaste. Once, a few weeks ago, and
Okay.
I have come to you by way of Krista Ray and Jonathan
Oh, that's
Sousa
right.
and Barbara
Yeah.
Holden. Yes.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's so wonderful to be with you. So I feel like I might have gotten the little holy breadcrumbs over the course of raising my hand and hearing all of the answers, but I want to explore just very briefly. I know we're at time, but knowing the choice and accept Dharma of becoming a mother and the refinement of transcending the self, or the process of learning that and in becoming a mother. And in this time, hearing you speak, it is so at home, and it is so what I have felt throughout my whole life. And knowing this time would come, and knowing this preparation, so to speak, for battle. And there's this instinct, this like mother instinct of, preparing us. And I can also hold the peril of, or the fear mind or the wormholes that I can go into. But not but and my question is around right action right now, because I hear your response to Kelly of fulfilling that Dharma and really being that role that I have accepted as a mother. And it is so fulfilling, and it is also very hard as a single mother. And so my question is action right now, and in really preparing for the stability of the shakes to come, and where best to put myself and my son, and I know that that is an internal space, but it also, for me, is affected by my external and the home that I create and with whom I create that home, and also my work out into the world. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. I think it's a good dilemma. You're in touch with it. I think the idea is that everyone who comes as to me and to the spiritual path, I accommodate their human life as part of their spiritual life. So there is no problem with having both. The thing that I believe is that your impetus to be a mother is the same impetus as to be the divine mother, as to be a human mother. And that principle within you will grow and mature this lifetime through your child, and it will strengthen in your ability to be the divine mother. This will be the outcome, because you can already sense the opportunity and the purpose within you. If you can recognize that when your son is difficult, when he is not behaving, when he has the challenge and the interference with what you'd rather be doing, is an opportunity to come into existence more in the full maturity of your motherhood, then you can recognize that life has given you everything you needed. The other part of a course is to have a practice that keeps this in your remembrance in your daily life. So the teaching of having a regular meditation practice, to participate with me on a regular basis, so that you can be in touch with this greater purpose and to fulfill the current purpose of your dharmic life that you've created for yourself. See, in the case of Dharma, of our own individual desire and aspirations for ourselves as individuals, these help actualize ourselves as a maturing human into life, becoming an adult, growing up, becoming mature and wise. That is a necessary basis for the maturation of the spiritual path. So you be patient with yourself, and you stay in remembrance and have a significant proportion of your life aligned with your spiritual truth.
Can I ask a refining question?
Okay.
On the focal point of that? Because I do feel that divine mother in how I participate in my communities. And that is also the refining question is, yes, the community of, yes, my son and I, and that is utmost, the focal point. And then also the next ring out, like where I live, in a low income neighborhood and working with the kids here and then in other communities. So, and there's this desire to move out of where I am.
Good. So Megan, I would say talk to one of the mentors. The issue here is to diminish the amount of outer attention in the normal expressions of the mother when it goes beyond just their children, and to hold that and let the force that's trying to happen in you spiritually stay without have some space to come forward in your life. Otherwise, your life is going to be too rajasic to let in and integrate the spiritual forces. So there are specific instructions that can come to you. All right, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the last person today is Angela.
Angela. Namaste. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I raised my hand because during the talk, I felt something in my gut. And as I sat with it, I sensed the doubt along with the capacity that I have and the hesitation, like all of that happening at the same time. And after I raised my hand, it became very bodily for me. It was, there was a lot of shaking here and just really just kind of a lot of coldness. So I just wanted to bring that forward because I'm just was questioning whether there was like a hiding out because it was doubt. So I just wanted to kind of come forward and.
Okay, so where is the coldness in your body?
Oh, it's all over. And yeah, it's all over. And in my gut, yeah, there's a lot of quaking and it goes up to the throat. And the side of the neck has got some pain on it.
Okay, and what's the energetics of the moment? Do you feel like you're losing control or not fully here, or any other term that might describe it?
It feels like there's this invigoration,
Okay.
like almost this intensity, like, wow, like, yeah, it feels invigorating, interesting enough.
Okay, that's your consciousness making a shift, a leap.
Yeah.
Yeah, the universe has taken over the work with you. You already know your divine nature. These are the habits, the remaining remnants of the habits of your mind's domination over the authority of your own divinity. And therefore it carries a power, but really it's just a vulnerability. It's the energetic event that occurs periodically over time, and you'll get used to this. And when the coldness means, it means the consciousness is pulling out of the surface awareness. You may still be in your surface attention, but the consciousness is pulling inward into itself, and it's usually propelling you into a shift. So I suspect that'll demonstrate itself today fairly quickly as you learn to just let go of all that and be right there in that quaking, vulnerable quality of kind of invigoration, because there's a part of you that's deeply inspired by this conversation about purpose and peril. It's why you're here. So obviously it's a reflection of the energetics in your body right now. Nothing more.
Yeah, it feels like a delight to be in it. Actually, I was sitting on the couch like, wow, this is just delightful.
Yeah,
So.
the universe is going to keep introducing itself in different ways. You have many strange bedfellows. You discover we all have many strange bedfellows as we become more universal.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angelica. Okay,
We're done.
We're done. Well, good work. We really covered a lot of territory. And
I want to, David, how are you guys doing? Because I know the fires are near you. Are you okay?
Okay, he's okay.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to just finish. So take 5 minutes together. We'll be in silence and stillness. Of course, this is our first song for UK Brighton. Tomorrow we will have a second one, and then on Saturday we will be doing an intensive, and there will be a theme, an unfolding. So those of you who haven't signed up, I invite you to sign up and to join in following through this conversation in its different expressions as we walk down these next few days to the outcome that's coming. Outcome that's coming. All right. So I know how this is because I create these momentums that create the vessel, that create the ordeal that allow for the outcome to come. So those of you need to commit in order to know that it is purposeful. Otherwise, it'll be something you won't want to do. All right, that's how it is whenever we make transitions. So there's the invitation, the opportunity. All right, so let's just take some time in silence and stillness together and let some of this sink in. Hari Om Dhat Sat. Hari Om Dhat Sat. Hari Om Dhat Sat Shree. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste. Thank you.